Hello and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and the Fool, yeah.
So you're talking about last time, splitting episodes into two. We're doing every week or every other week or every week. And I was just thinking, it could have the downside of us recording double length episodes in order to have enough dialogue for it. But then I was also thinking, on the other hand, even if we only record an hour and you split that in half, that's still 2 half-hour episodes, and half an hour is a long time. Even if it was 2 15-minute episodes, that's too long for some people, right?
Yeah.
We could have 2 shorts. We could do a 5-minute episode and have 2 YouTube shorts.
Yeah.
All right.
Just pull my time to break them down to shorts.
Yeah, okay, let's record some YouTube. You did that the one time with that one episode, The Infinite Stare.
Yeah.
You broke into 15-minute segments, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so even if we do a half-hour episode, that's 2 15-minute segments, potentially.
Yeah.
If they're separate enough. Yeah, so I guess we can just let's try to condense them into a YouTube short then. So Hitler, and sandwiches, infinite staircase. Kant was right, Plato was right, you're just reading them wrong.
But Kant was wrong according to Mustache Man.
We already talked about Nietzsche, yes.
Yeah. Other Mustache Man.
Funny thing is, Hitler barely had a mustache, and yet that's how he's referred to these days, is the mustache guy.
So...
Do you think that's messed up, actually? I've seen him called a lot funny Austrian painter or funny mustache man.
Yeah.
I guess it's switched, right? Funny mustache man because his mustache is funny looking.
Yeah.
But then you say funny Austrian painter as a sort of... But it's no, he wasn't very... As far as I'm aware, he had no comedy career, and he was kind of horrible. He wasn't exactly...
The funny Austrian painter comes from... You're not allowed to say his name.
Yeah.
A lot of people do... It's not quite doublethink, but it's sort of like a YouTube doublethink.
Well, I think it's actually... It might almost be a rebellion,
Yeah, no, that's why I'm saying it is... Yeah. It's basically a way to speak around it, and so you could say mid-century Germans or Austrian painter.
Yeah, no Germans.
Yeah, no. And that's kind of funny that you have to say that. It's kind of silly that you have to do that. And so it embraces the silliness, calling him the funny Austrian painter.
Yeah, did you see Mark Zuckerberg's interview on Joe Rogan?
No.
So he was saying, let's say there's a certain amount of bad stuff on your platform, right? People post terrorist apologia or actual terrorist recruiting videos, or they these horrible, hateful things like, we should kill all Jews, let's go to this place on this day and we'll kill them all, right? Have those sort of things. Said, so obviously you want to get rid of those. And there's way too much for a person to do, so you have algorithms figure it out, right? So he said, so you can essentially tune the algorithm to be more sensitive or less sensitive. But after about, he was throwing out numbers, but after about 80%, so it gets about 80% of them, right? You still have 20% of this horrible stuff left. And you have about 1% to 0.5% false positives. You crank it up to that you can get rid of 90% of the stuff, and suddenly you have 10% false positives. And then you get 95% of it, and you have 25% false positives. The false positives start growing exponentially.
Yeah.
The more... And so what he said Facebook was doing for a long time was trying to get rid of all of everything, and they had a ridiculous amount of false positives. And so now he wants to push it more a bit to, okay, we'll just have to let some stuff slip through the cracks, and let's only have 1% false positives or less.
I don't know how you can even justify looking at posts anymore on Facebook, because it's all media ads and...
Well, I don't use Facebook, so I don't even...
It's absurd. What Facebook used to be is you saw people's pictures and sometimes their ideas or their drawings.
Yeah.
And it's turned into worse than a Twitter feed, or even... It's like Reddit, basically, that you can't choose which... It's always the Reddit homepage. You can't even choose to go to a subreddit.
I don't remember... Was it XKCD many years ago said all social media websites eventually become one another? You look at YouTube Shorts, you look at Instagram Reels, they're oh, Snapchat's really popular, let's copy Snapchat.
Yeah. And
Shorts is interesting because it's kind of... I think they were going for Vines, but then TikTok really blew up, and so they're trying to compete with TikTok. But YouTube isn't the short... It's also weird. I don't know if it's a necessary thing or not, but YouTube Shorts are vertical, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And maybe they have to be, but...
They do.
There was a complaint, I don't know if you remember, but from about 2007 to, I don't know, probably 2020 even, people saying just shoot in horizontal so you get a proper full screen. Because you can hold a phone sideways, right?
Yeah.
But now TikTok and YouTube Shorts, they're all vertical.
Yeah.
And so they take up like this tiny little slice of your computer if you're on a computer. And even if you're on a phone, you're still getting this really weird, like...
Yeah, it makes editing quite difficult when you're... Because computers are all horizon.
So you have to zoom in so you only see half the footage.
Yeah, you have to like do a huge amount of cutting, and so it actually provides an interesting problem when trying to do Minecraft videos with it, because you have to really choose what to focus on.
Yeah, because Minecraft is very... Well, it's a PC game, yeah, so it's going to be wide.
Yeah, and I find it interesting when making shorts for Minecraft, or shorts in general, is you very much have to choose what to focus on. So it does give an interesting creative problem.
Yeah, no, there's always, whenever there's restrictions, there's a creative, there's room for creativity, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever watched a guy called Al Jokes. He's got really long hair, crazy facial hair, and he makes these, what would you call it? Like, offensive jokes, but they're like normie offensive jokes. You know? Like, they're racism, they're...
There are so many YouTube channels.
They're pretty offensive in a way, but he does this interesting thing with shorts where, and I've seen a few do this. Whenever I can't, I try to ban shorts actually, but whenever I do see them, the video will start and it'll play with what's the way to describe it? Sort of an open-ended question, and then the video will be about that question, and then the video will end. But because shorts loop, YouTube just makes them loop automatically. It'll actually be a continuation of what he said at the end of the video will be the start of the video.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
Yeah, but it'll actually recontextualize the whole joke of the whole video, which I think is, it's creative.
Yeah, it's very common to try and make your video loopable.
With YouTube Shorts?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't... Like, I think there is room for creativity there, but I don't think it's... First of all, it shouldn't be YouTube. And if it is YouTube, YouTube should have a YouTube Shorts website that you can go to, because, like, Short Fat Otaku, right? He does these in-depth... what would you sort of academic literature analysis videos, and between them he puts out about 500,000 shorts, and so my subscription box is only his shorts basically, and it's like I want to unsubscribe from him just because like I would like to actually see what other things are in the subscription box, and so it's, and I'm not interested in the shorts. But if you should be able, like, I don't know, YouTube, the high ups at YouTube, all they do is remove features, right? Like they have all these amazing features and they remove them. If I was in charge, like, we used to be able to automatically update our podcasts so that they would all automatically add, just based on the title, they'd add to a playlist automatically. It was great. So if I was in charge of YouTube, what I would do is I would allow you to subscribe to playlists, and I'd allow you to subscribe to series. Because, like, if I'm watching Mr. Samuel Streamer, I don't want to watch his Crusader Kings videos. I want to watch his RimWorld videos. So let me just subscribe so I only see the RimWorld. Like, that shouldn't be hard to do, right? They already show which video game is getting played. You could have, like, let the person custom set up their subscription box. Like, don't show me Crusader Kings videos. Boom.
Yeah.
Because it already automatically detects the video game getting played. And then I would be like, yeah, I only want to see the videos longer than 3 minutes from Short Fat Otaku. Or I don't want to see... Or, I don't watch him, but Arch Warhammer does some interesting live streams on occasion, but I don't like his videos. So it's like, don't show me, but if I want to be notified that he's live streaming, it's like, you have to be subscribed to him. So it's like, so I just miss his live streams because I don't want to be subscribed to his videos. So it, like, just let me be like, yeah, I'd like to see the live stream. I'd like to see
YouTube's very, very weird. I think it's, multiple things have happened to it, which it's basically, part of it is it's a machine that the people who actually run it don't understand it anymore. It's one of those Mechanicus machines.
Well, did you... Linus Tech Tips did a slightly... It wasn't very in-depth, but they were doing a little comparison. And they're like 90% sure that the comment section displayed below a YouTube video, and you know how you can access comments in the creator tools in YouTube? They don't run on the same code. Like, they're pretty sure they're two separate APIs plugging into the comments because they will have different comments in them in different orders.
I can believe that.
So it's like, that's why.
Well, here's the interesting thing. So there's it's 2 channels now. I guess it's 3 channels now that I like to look at their videos, but I was getting annoyed that they were showing up in the notifications.
Yeah.
Because for me, what notifications are for, I don't want to see people's videos in my notifications. I want to see people's comments on my videos in notifications. That's what I use it for.
Yeah.
It's basically to let me know, oh, someone put a comment here, let me respond to that. And so I basically turned off notifications for 3 different channels. Now, these channels used to, in my recommended sections, and even in the, like, this is your homepage of channels you're subscribed to, not the general homepage, it used to recommend their videos to me.
Yeah.
But because I turned off notifications...
Oh, you hate them.
They don't show me their videos anymore. But here's the weird part. If I open up my phone's search bar, and I just tap the search, in the list of recommended searches, shows up those 3 channels. However, this is what's even more crazy, is I only search for those channels at certain times in the evening. And so when I look it up, they only appear in the evening on my recommended. If I was to do it in the morning, I wouldn't get recommended that list. Later on in the evening, there's different channels I look for, and those will show up when I tap just the general search at those times.
Wow, so there is some complex stuff going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's some insanely complex stuff and some insanely incompetent stuff at the same time going on.
So I've blocked, like, I don't have recommendeds, I have to search every video, right? Yeah. But one of the main reasons I got rid of, like, everything on YouTube was they did a UI update, I don't know if they kept it or not, where videos now appear below the video and comments are on the side.
They changed that back.
Okay, because that was a nightmare.
There was a lot of outcry against that.
Like, what? How did anyone look at that for more than 2 seconds? Like, you know, you got to try new things, right? You're like, maybe this is way better. But the moment the engineer codes it, you sit down, you're like, no, turn it back. Like,
I talked to a guy who's been in software for quite a while, and there's a basic principle in software, which is you do something to get promoted.
Yeah, you don't want to just...
And there's a formula, which is every 2.5 years for your project, you're supposed to update the UI. And whenever that does, it makes everyone go, oh, and clap like seals. And it is a common belief in industry that you have to update the UI like 2.5 to every 5 years.
Yeah.
You have to change its look and make it fresh.
But it also means that the designers keep getting employed and the engineers keep getting employed.
Well, there's a secondary thing to that, which is the consumers. It's actually it's a fallacy that they like the change. Because the surveys that were done for it and the studies that were done on it was basically people don't care. That's just the flat out, people don't care.
Yeah.
And people like things staying the way they are. However, the way the studies and surveys have been conducted is, did you notice the change?
Mm.
And so they're false asked questions, basically. It's like I don't know all the questions exactly, but it's a bunch of falsely asked questions to make it appear like it's a good thing. In reality, people actually don't like it a lot of times when UIs get changed.
When do you think,
unless it's an absolutely terrible UI.
When do you think YouTube was at its best?
I think YouTube was at its best.
I think before they integrated with Google+.
Yeah, I think YouTube was at its best when channels had unique art around them when you clicked on them.
I don't think I ever noticed that. I was never really looking at the channels, like, because I've been using YouTube since like 2006, on and off, but I never really noticed it. But the
also, I think actually probably when YouTube was at its best was probably in 2010 to 2014.
So there's
for both creators and viewers. That's when I think it was at its best.
They used to do the 5-star thing, and I think the up or down was a better idea.
Yeah,
thumbs up or down. I liked people used to talk about lightsabers, right? There was the red line and the green line,
yeah,
and they would push on each other. And I liked that. I thought that was cool. I think that was better than what we have now. And the comments used to be in order they were typed out, and they weren't nested. So it was just like a forum.
Yeah.
Which meant you couldn't see old comments, really. There's a lot of scrolling to go through. So nested is better for that. But on the other hand, I think forum stuff, I think the Reddit style might actually be... I've been wavering on this because on a sort of intellectual level, I like the Reddit structure, the nested threads, right? Oh yeah, that makes sense. But what I think it actually prevents people from engaging with each other, and you only engage on the section you want to be a part of, right? Because if you go to an old forum, all the conversations are happening at once, but that means you're also interacting with everyone at once in that area. So,
well,
and you don't. It's less echo chambery.
Yeah.
You don't form these ever. And Reddit, of course, is famous for being the echo chamber of the internet.
Yeah. It's also, I think the algorithm of YouTube is driven for maximum, I don't know, like trying to make people continually view stuff, apparently. And like people say it changed, though the algorithm's impacting either various different things. And I feel like we've talked about this before, but I don't know how much it would affect YouTube's profitability, because I think YouTube is slightly profitable now.
Yeah, no, I think they do make money.
But I don't know if that's based on their algorithms or not, or their business model.
Yeah, it's like it's a service that no one else can offer. They don't need to do anything fancy. It's like wasn't YouTube
What?
I think YouTube was created because Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl had a dance routine where Janet Jackson was wearing like a dress, and part of the dance routine was that he would grab the dress and tear it off of her.
Yeah.
But he messed up and he actually tore off like all her clothes because she had to have like she had this like it was kind of like a corset underneath, but he actually tore the corset off.
Yeah.
And so I think the creators of YouTube were like, I couldn't find this video anywhere, so I want a place where everyone can just go and look and find the video. So that was I think that was one of the main forces behind YouTube.
What? Like YouTube Kids, you can't have any comments on them.
I want to see Michael Jackson's sister naked.
And that was a choice they made.
YouTube Kids, yeah, it didn't work, did it? Like they
No.
they didn't actually like they have it as this legal protection, but they don't actually use it properly.
It does protect from people grooming kids in the comment sections.
No, but the problem is that nobody uses YouTube Kids because they don't restrict the YouTube's Kids stuff to YouTube Kids, and
They just automatically put it on certain videos.
and they encourage kids to go to normal YouTube, not YouTube Kids. So it's like they don't actually want because the problem with
had the most
YouTube Kids isn't allowed to target advertising because the reason they made YouTube's Kids is because there's child protection laws which say you're not allowed to target advertising to children.
Yeah.
So they made YouTube Kids to say, oh yeah, we're not targeting advertising because the kids are on YouTube Kids. But then they put the kids ads on YouTube and they want the kids to go to YouTube.
Now, it might have been a money thing for them, but they made the most stupid choice in their legal defense, which is saying, oh, we have YouTube Kids. What they should have said is kids under 13 aren't allowed on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But they want money, right?
But so still, they are the only platform that offers what they have. All the others cannot compare to them.
Yeah.
Like all the others are, oh, we have troubles on YouTube, so we're going to these other platforms. Like I think the best competitive platform to YouTube is Substack. I've never used Substack. I don't even know what the website looks like.
Isn't that just for text, or can you do video?
No, you can do video on it and a whole bunch of stuff now. They've really upgraded it. And I think why Substack's the only real competitor to YouTube is Substack is completely, you pay for it.
Right.
You can't, like Substack is actually truly, you can't go there and watch videos for free. You look for one creator and you subscribe to them.
People also don't realize what YouTube has done. YouTube and people have like no idea about copyright laws, right?
Yeah.
So people think, oh yeah, video game music isn't copyrighted, so you can. That's not true. Video game music is all copyrighted, unless they specifically say it's not, right?
Yeah.
And people also think, oh yeah, you can just as long as you don't monetize it, you can put music from or people put little clips from television shows into there. That's all not allowed. YouTube has struck deals with every music producer, and like I don't know if they've done it with film companies or not, but they've done it with the video game companies, and they've done it with every music producer that says we will give you a cut of their video if you don't copyright strike them, basically. Except, well, not if you don't sue them. Copyright strikes are a YouTube thing. That isn't a real thing.
Yeah.
YouTube is essentially protecting everyone that uses their platform with the copyright strike system.
Yeah.
That isn't YouTube doing a bad thing. That's YouTube doing something that is way more lenient than the law.
Oh, yeah.
And in order to do that, they actually had to go to like Universal Music and to Apple, and they had to go to all of them and say, here, we'll give you tons of money if you let us do this.
Yeah.
So YouTube, like Rumble, for instance, they've got a lot going for them similar to YouTube, but they can't do that. If you put a copyrighted thing on there, I think they keep them up partly now, but they shouldn't. Like, they're going to get struck down someday when, like, Universal gets ticked off or something.
Yeah.
And, yeah, nobody else can do what YouTube does, which is a shame. And I do think that means that, like, people think YouTube is unfair, but that actually means, like, copyright law is way too far in one direction.
Yes.
Because YouTube is way more fair than copyright law.
Oh, definitely. One of the major things with YouTube is what we're saying, it's the only platform that offers what it was. Just let people tweak their algorithm, like have personality. Yeah. You can have your horrible default because it is something like 80% of people who use a project will always leave it on default settings.
Yeah.
And your default settings, you can tweak it to be the most profitable settings you want. But then for other people, just let them...
Yeah, well, like...
And even then, like, someone's like, oh, Ma, you're still using YouTube's default? Here, let me change this for you.
Well, even, like, default Windows, right? Like, Windows 11. I don't understand. Like, I had to use default Windows 11 yesterday. I was looking something up on a computer at work. And so, like, not my work computer, which I've fixed, but, like, a different work computer. So I was trying to look something up on it.
Sorry, I just wanted to focus on your work computer that you fix. Some other poor sod's going to come along after you're, like, not using that computer more. And they don't do factory reset on it,
Yeah.
they're going to have
The best time of their life.
the best experience ever, and then not understand how other computers are so bad, or they're going to be so mystified by it, they're going to change computers.
So, I would rather not use a computer. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, what I was trying to use Edge on default Windows 11. Half the screen was taken up with pop-ups from Microsoft. They weren't ads or anything. They were Microsoft pop-ups. And so I'd say no, thank you, no, and they kept coming up over and over and over again. So I typed Vivaldi into the search engine because I was like, I can't do anything. I can't see the screen. There's these giant pop-ups, like literally half the screen for some insane reason. So I typed Vivaldi into the search engine. First result is just this big wall of text from Microsoft saying, wait, we're way better than Vivaldi. Don't switch. I was like, how pathetic is it? Just have a good system.
Yeah.
Like, Edge is supposed to have the best performance of any browser out there. Let me enjoy it. Instead, this thing here, Copilot, they've been shoving that into everything too.
Yeah.
And, maybe Copilot's a great idea, but I don't want it because they're not giving it to me in any way. Windows 11 is unusable. I don't understand why anyone would use a computer if they...
So, our stepdad is having problems with something related to work, and we work in the same field. And so, I had fixed it on my computer.
Yeah.
And this is a problem that everyone has. And he's like, my computer updated recently, can you fix it again because it's not working on my anymore? So he went to his computer, like, all right, this is how the fix should work. Why isn't this working? This is exactly how the fix should work. What is going on? Why is the UI so weird? It's like, what version of Windows are you using? It's like, Windows 11. How is it so different from 10 that I can longer
Windows
do
11 is
an
way
XL
worse.
fix? Like, this is an XL software. I was just trying to get widgets activated. And it took me forever to figure it out.
Yeah, like, it took me about 2 to 3 full days, I think, to fix my work computer to the point on Windows 11 to the point where I could use it. I had to do registry edits. I had to, get rid of tons of software. I had to install, Vivaldi, and I think I installed Pale Moon. Not Pale Moon, the other one. LibreWolf, possibly. Did one of those, put Retrobar on there. I put OpenShell. Those are more for my eyes, because I also hate the layout of everything. And, Explorer is... I actually needed to put OpenShell on there just so I could use Explorer, because Explorer has become this mess where you can't... Have you ever had your computer hooked up to the cloud? It becomes... it doesn't let you... If you use, Windows 365, and you try to export a file or load a file in, or you try to attach an email, it gives you the list of your 5 most recently used things. It doesn't open up the file explorer. It just says, here's your 5 most recently things. And then you can click Look for More. That'll bring another drop-down menu. And then you can click Open File Explorer. There's 3 extra button presses that you can't save. There's no save button. It all auto-saves. So, but the shortcut for autosave still works. So you have to press S12 now if you want to save as.
I corrupt most of my software. That's the only way I can describe it. So that I avoid using cloud. And it usually causes me problems, but it's better than dealing with cloud.
Well, you have to, start integrating and make it all work right. So it doesn't... It's not... I don't know if it's enabled by default, but we have it all set up, and it's a nightmare.
No, they try to automatically set up cloud and various different things. And so I go into Files, and I have a piece of software that... Know how, the administration thing pops up and says you're not allowed to delete this?
Yeah.
And then it says, you have to type in these codes or whatever?
Yeah.
I have a piece of software that just lets me delete any file from my computer.
That's dangerous.
Oh, it is. And so I tear pieces of software to ribbons with it.
You can just use PowerShell, I think, if you don't... It probably just runs a PowerShell script every time you do it. But...
Yeah, so I tear pieces of software to ribbons, and they mostly run.
Yeah. I have a hex editor on the desktop just so I can hit some stuff randomly to zeros just in case I get annoyed.
I actually do have, not a hex editor, but I have a different kind of editor that does different file editing, which it basically examines them based on a different code library.
Like Cheat Engine or something?
No, it's used mostly for Minecraft, but I use it for other software as well. And then I have another engine that lets me look at every single file on my computer, so I can find files really easily, because File Explorer is garbage.
Yeah, there's a good one's called Everything. I don't know if you have that one.
I have Tree, or File Tree, I think.
The one I've liked the most, I think, is Everything. Well, the thing is, you have to start it.
Yeah.
So it takes 30 seconds to start, and then it's way faster.
Yeah.
But
that's the same with File Tree.
The drawback is it's not constantly running and updating in the background. So So if you want to do something very quickly, default Explorer is faster. But if you actually want to find something, everything's better.
Yeah.
Everything is better.
It's insane. It is... I feel so much of this is caused, honestly, by just Mechanicus.
It's just become so unwieldy that no one knows how...
So unwieldy, and people get promotions by doing things instead of you.
Because I think what would... If you want to start like the greatest software company ever, right? What you do is you have some sort of bonus, like days without a customer complaint or something. And so it's like, your job is to sit there and not touch anything.
Yeah.
You will get paid to do nothing. But maybe your job is to keep looking. Well,
actually, it's almost the opposite of the Mechanicus in some ways, because their religion is based around not messing with the old technologies.
Yeah, but this is just...
It's the extremist suit.
This is just, if it's not broken, break it, and then fix it so you keep getting paid. There's not really a solution. Well, AI might be a solution in the future. AI coders. Yeah. Because then you only fire them up when you need to fix something.
Yeah.
And otherwise it's cheaper not to have them running at all, right? I mean, the same is true of programmers, but you want to keep the programmers on staff for when something breaks, and they want to justify their own payment.
Yeah.
But couldn't your designers and your programmers be off in their own little rooms on a completely air-gapped system and say, hey, I tried something new, what do you think? And then you look at it and you go, no, that one's not good.
There's a company that has an absolutely amazing platform that since starting using it, I've only seen its UI and systems improve. And they do what you just said.
Let me think. I can think of the company you might be saying, but I disagree if it is them. So I'm going to guess a different one.
I think you probably disagree with me.
Is it Steam?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think Steam's gotten worse.
I think it's gone better.
Right now, first of all, family sharing. I hate it. Okay, so you have to go to your email, which I hate doing, and then you get interrupted hey, they invited you to join the family, and you have to go to the email. That part's annoying, right? Then, once you have family sharing enabled, it shows you how many copies of each game you have. And so there's a little 2 in the corner of all your games. And so then you're like, this is just ruining... Now I'm constantly reminded that there's this many games. If someone is playing one of your games, you can't even kick them out anymore. So if someone's playing one of your games, you just have to twiddle your thumbs because you can't actually access the game anymore. And the list on the side, right? This isn't family sharing anymore, but the list on the side where it's show what games you have, you click on that and... Okay, now I will say in Steam's defense, you can turn basically all the stuff off.
Yeah.
There's always a toggle somewhere, but it's not in the most obvious spot a lot of the time. But the one with family sharing, it's here's all of your games, right? All of your brother's games, and you have 7 million games. So I'm I can't find any of my games in here. I have a lot of games. I have 100, but you have 500 games or more.
It's fine. I don't have those problems.
Why not? What do you mean?
Because I toggled the settings.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I toggled them all too. But I thought the changes were all for the worse in my mind. The ability to turn them off is nice, but I think they all made the experience worse.
I think they've made it better.
But at least... But you said you toggled them off.
Yeah. I think the new family share is better than the old.
It's more stable. It's way more stable.
Yeah.
And it's less annoying because now the only game you can't play is one of your games.
Yeah.
Instead of all your games.
Yes.
That I like a lot more. But... I wish I could kick you off of playing a game when you're... That's only happened to me once.
Yeah.
But
I wish you could kick me off too.
Yeah, well, same for me, right? If I was playing one of your games, I'd want you to be able to kick me off.
Yeah.
And it was weird because I don't even think it was a game you don't own. So I think you might have just... I don't know what happened there exactly. But that is actually the other benefit is you have no reason to use my account now, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The cloud. I hate the cloud. I hate Steam Cloud.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with the Steam Cloud.
It always deletes my saves, and it always has a little buggy updates, and yeah, when they introduced Steam Cloud, I did not like that. And let's see, what else don't I like about Steam? They made the icons bigger.
Yeah. So
you can't see as much on the screen at once. Don't like that change.
You're just a contrarian.
No, Steam had a perfect system back in 2000 and when did I first use Steam? I think I was 10.
We hated having to use Steam when we first got it.
Yeah. So it was perfect back then when I hated it. And it got just before clouds, 2011 or so. 2000 when Magica. When I got Magica, that was about 2011. That was when Steam was at its peak. Had a lot of games. Now it's all another change Steam did. They allowed visual novels. Disgusting. Those aren't video games. Get them off. All Nintendo's top sellers. If you look on the Nintendo store, it's some hentai visual novel. Like, I don't want this disgusting filth on my store. Get those visual novels out of there. Like, I've never been so offended as by the sight of a visual novel on the store, right? The hentai, it's like whatever, but the visual novel, like they're like books that take too long to read, or they're like comics without good artwork. It's like, imagine if a comic book reused the same, dinosaur comic or whatever it's called, where it's like the same 4 panels every time. Yeah. That's a visual novel, except people pay for them. Dinosaur Comics is at least free, so you can ignore it for free. But like, why would, and visual novel, it's like,
your description is the best of a visual novel is a book that takes too long to read. That is so true to visual. Good God. The amount of pure unnecessary fluff in their storytelling.
Like, and I kind of apply that because there's sort of an overlap between visual novels and walking simulators. Yeah. And also there's what was it called? Paradise Killer? It's a game I got and then I refunded because it's like a visual novel combined with an exploration game.
Yeah.
And the visual novel aspect of it just ruins the whole rest of the game, in my opinion. But I think, is Outer Wilds a visual novel?
No.
There's a lot of reading, but they do it well, I guess.
I don't read. I'm having a lot of trouble with the game.
Okay, sure.
I had to start reading, but I think I got halfway through all the things without reading.
I mean, but the game is... Well, I guess the game isn't really in the reading, but the reading tells you what's going on, I guess. Yeah. And then the other game I'm thinking of... No. Is it Dear Esther? The one about the person whose family all dies?
What Remains of Edith Finch.
That's the one where everyone's family's... Yeah. So that one... Well, here's the other thing about visual novels, right? And games like Fire Emblem, because they're like visual novels now. Like the Fire Emblem and Game Boy wasn't so much, but now Fire Emblem's a visual novel. Story used to be this thing where it was in the background to carry the gameplay. Like Mario. Oh, Princess Peach was captured. Okay, I'm going to go get Princess Peach, right? That was the story. Perfect. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't need anything more. Donkey Kong. Bananas are stolen. All right, we got our motivation. Let's go. But then they tried to have more dialogue, but the problem is the quality never improved. It's just like 12 hours of of Princess Peach getting captured by Bowser or Donkey Kong's bananas being stolen. Like, that's the quality of... It's actually worse than that, because at least that writing is like tied into the plot everywhere. The writing is so bad, right? But then there's games like What Remains of Edith Finch, like that game I showed you, the Oberdin, where someone who actually knows how to write creates the story, and you're like, oh, this can actually be good.
So I have a good comparison for writer efficiency, which I think is part of writing skill. So there's 2 webcomics I still follow. I used to follow tons when I was younger. There's basically two that I still follow and read. One is El Gunashaiv, and the other is Unsounded. And
Unsounded, I like the art's good. The story's decent too, I guess. So I don't have the patience for webcomics, I don't think.
Well, here's what's interesting. Here's the difference between 2 of them. Nothing happens in El Gunashaiv. It takes forever. The author will spend half a year on a Magic the Gathering card tournament.
Yeah.
Which is such a small scene.
It's not very... Yeah, I think
and so much of the dialogue is unnecessary. So much of what's going on is unnecessary. You could tell the story so much better and so much faster and more efficiently. And that's the thing with Unsounded. Unsounded never has a wasted word.
I think the best webcomic is probably... Okay, so my 2 favorite webcomics that aren't just comic a day, like Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal, or maybe 3. So Christopher, The Abominable Christopher...
Charles Christopher.
That one is beautiful and heart-wrenching and amazing.
And there's never a wasted word.
Yeah, and it's a retelling of one of humanity's greatest stories. It's Gilgamesh retold as like a cute little fluffy creature, basically. Yeah. So that one, really good. Schlock Mercenary.
Yeah.
Probably the deepest, hard sci-fi webcomic out there. My problem with it is it's so long.
Yeah.
But unlike you were saying, El Gunashaiv or a lot of other webcomics, that length is not wasted. It's just, for some reason, the author never runs out of ideas, and there's just so much of the universe to explore.
Yeah.
It's this endless universe of these crazy sci-fi concepts. And then Order of the Stick.
Yeah.
Order of the Stick.
Which its problem is that the author takes forever to write.
Its problem is that the author like severed all the tendons in his hand.
Did he?
Yeah, that's why it takes so long now.
Oh.
Yeah, no, he got he lost the ability to use his hands, so he had to spend like a year or two in recovery, and then he had to spend about 6 months. He's actually created a bit of a sort of drag and drop algorithm so that he can build his webcomics without drawing them now. So
if there's any comic you could do that with, it's his.
And I mean, all he had to do before was use the circle tool, right? But
yeah.
But now it's even simpler, I guess. So he's got like, here's the spatial expressions. So he had to build that, and yeah. So he got super injured basically.
Yeah.
But that story is really good. Unsounded, I like the art a lot, but the plot, I don't know, got away from me. Like the silver-haired people and it's a bit anime, I guess. But the art is very good. The characters are very interesting. Story, like you said, not really wasted.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, didn't capture me in the end. There's another one like that, Looking for Group.
Yeah.
Well, I think the problem with that one is eventually the same thing with everything by that guy who does Looking for Group. He also does what's it called?
Least I Could Do.
Least I Could Do. The main characters are kind of Mary Sue's.
Yeah.
But like really perverted evil Mary Sue's.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like, ugh, I don't know about this author. You start feeling a little bit skeevy reading them. You're like, I don't know, this is a little bit something going on here. Yeah. And also, Looking for Group, they do the thing with the Beast in Shadow that Order of the Stick does.
Yeah.
With Richard's background in Looking for Group, where it's like, ooh, we're going to reveal it, but we're not. Ooh, the Beast in Shadow, I think at this point, it's just a funny joke.
Yeah.
But with Richard, it's like, come on, you can't draw it out forever. Just tell me who he is.
Yeah, the Beast in Shadow is the Beast in Shadow. It's actually not meant to come out.
No, he actually has a plan for it. He knew what it was from the beginning. And he was going to reveal it, and then he didn't a few times, and he's like, it's funnier if I don't. And so, right.
That's the same thing with V.
With V?
The wizard in Order of the Stick.
Oh, yeah.
Don't know if they're a man or a woman.
Yeah, well, that one's less. That's just like them being an elf, right?
Yeah.
But with the Beast in Shadow, I think it's like it's a Tresk, right? Like
it's way too small.
Yes, but like it's so well. I think the shadows are hiding its size. Mm-hmm. Like I can't think it's able to stomp and like I don't think Tresk is like physically powerful, is it? Like
it's insanely powerful.
Oh yeah,
it's the most physically powerful creature. That's the whole thing about the Tresk is it's physically powerful. Okay. It doesn't have magic powers.
And on the other hand, it has to be something that the Lich can control, right?
Yeah. And also the Paladin couldn't hurt him.
Right.
It's like, hee, that tickles.
Right.
And the only thing with armor like that is the Tresk.
But a Tresk is kind of a
mindless eating machine.
Like, Red Cloak or whatever that Lich's name probably could infuse it with a mind. They're both ridiculously powerful spellcasters, right? Like, they're...
Maybe the Lich. I don't think Red Cloak would be powerful enough to infuse a Tresk.
I'm here to avenge the death of my father. Sorry, your father? Yeah, Roy. Roy who? Roy Greenhilt. You have to narrow it down. I said his name. No, it's really not doing it for me. Could you say the day of the... Okay, no, you're...
That was just a play off of us expanding...
Yeah, for me it was a Tuesday, that thing.
Yeah.
Right? But he's just like, I'm here to avenge Roy Greenhilt. Wait, could you narrow it down? What?
Like, sometimes it's also just about, like, the passion of the person. Like, that was just a Tuesday for me. So that actor, who was M. Bison, so that movie was apparently terrible. And he's, like, the only good part of the movie.
Yeah.
So basically what happened is he was retiring from being an actor. And his daughter asked him to basically do a role because she really likes Street Fighter. It's like, all right, sure. And he got M. Bison. And so he decided to have as much fun with it as possible and to play the character as best he could. And that was his last role. And so he kind of made the movie good by that character.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of... If there's a webcomic that's like a... I actually like... Well, okay, I don't like the comic. And I don't like the artist. But I like the art, if that makes... She's the artist for Archie Comics. Her name's like Maxine something or other.
She's kind of an artist for Archie Comics.
No, I think she was actually an artist for Archie Comics.
No,
I'm pretty sure she was.
No, the actual story's hilarious.
But she does Menage a Trois, Sticky Dilly Buns.
So I'll tell you the actual story about her.
Okay.
Is she used to just do porn parodies of it, and she was so good at drawing them so accurately that they hired her to be an artist.
Oh, so she is an Archie comic artist then.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She became an artist because she was so good at drawing in their style.
Right.
That's what
So I don't actually like her comics that much, but Archie comics kind of perfected art. Like, they're very pleasant to look at.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like a DC for a while they did that.
Yeah.
I think they fell out of it after. But for a few years, like the early, like 2007 to 2015 maybe, DC, their art was really nice to look at.
So I know you're not much as a fan of them as Emperor Text-to-Speech, but the Hunter the Parenting...
Oh, that's the Emperor, If the Emperor Had Text-to-Speech sequel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't... It doesn't speak to me in the same way. Yeah.
So they've gotten better. Like, they have 5 major episodes out. And that's something I actually noticed about their latest 2 episodes. It's, again, the never wasting a moment.
Yeah.
So there's this scene where Big D gets attacked by a werewolf. And its claws go across his throat. And he has a cut throat. And, like, you can see the injuries. And then in later scenes, you no longer see the cuts in his neck. And also Big D is fighting a Gru. And in World of Darkness, that's basically a death sentence. And he's able to actually hold his own and not get immediately killed by it. And he's fighting it off slightly with the help of other people. And in the comments, you're like, oh, his neck healed instantly. There might be something going on with Big D. And other people are like, that's just an animation accident. Like, that's a mistake. There is no way that this group made an animation mistake. They've been working on this one episode, which is like 50 minutes for a year. And like, if you look at their writing, if you look how they do it, if you look at every single line of dialogue and all their hints from earlier episodes, which lead you to details in later episodes, there is no mistakes.
Yeah, so I guess going back to just the visual novels and what you're saying there, like if you put the work and you have the passion, the problem isn't actually visual novels and it's not actually walking simulators. It's that they're very easy to do poorly.
Yes.
I think. And same with webcomics. Very easy.
People will buy them when they're poor.
And with animation, right? Very easy to make an animation error.
Yes.
And have you seen the Tomorrowverse DC animated movies? There's one with World War II. There's one where it's Superman versus Parasite. There's one where it's Green Lantern, Beware My Power. There's another one, it's The Long Halloween. So it's Batman villains are fighting gangsters and they take over Gotham.
I've seen one version of The Long Halloween, but that's the classic story of him fighting Hush.
I think that's just Hush.
Sorry, but that's during The Long Halloween.
Hush is during The Long Halloween?
Yeah.
Oh, bad year. Because it's Batman Year 2, right? Is like basically The Long Halloween?
Yeah, so it's, in the one I watched, it's Harvey Dent's wife is hushed.
Strange.
It is a retelling of the story with a twist.
Right. But
because everyone knows the story of Hush, it's Harvey Dent.
Hush, not Hushed.
Yeah,
Hush.
Yeah. Everyone knows that Hush is Harvey Dent. So the twist was it's his wife.
No, Hush isn't Harvey Dent. Hush is Batman's best friend.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a different twist.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Because
Harvey Dent is Two-Face.
Everyone thinks it's Harvey Dent, and then he becomes Two-Face, and then it ruins that whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, the Tomorrowverse. I'm pretty sure they're using 3D models, but it looks really good. I don't know how they're doing it. It's kind of like the Dragon Prince, but better. I guess the technology is just getting better and better.
No, the technology's not getting better. They made a bad choice with the Dragon Prince.
I think with the Tomorrowverse, what they might be doing is rotoscoping.
Yeah.
With 3D models. I think that's what they're probably doing.
Yeah, there's a software that does now. The Dragon Prince, they made a bad choice. They choose to have that frame rate.
Right, but it's not just the frame rate. Like the Dragon Prince, they look like they're rotating like 3D models, right? Whereas in this one, there's still fluid motion. Like Catwoman can do a backflip.
Yeah.
They can take a knife and stab a table, and there'll be scratch marks on the table. Like there's a lot of flexibility with this one.
Yeah, so anime has been working on that technology forever, the anime industry.
Yeah.
And just to be frank, the Western companies have way more money and way more time to develop them.
I always find it crazy how like Family Guy has better animation than anime.
So one of the big things about anime is it's meant to be an advertisement for the light novels.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
And also, I think they're actually like pretty low budget, a lot of them.
Oh, tons of them are low budget. Like, when they have actual budget, they can do some pretty incredible things. And there's even, learning about this, it's weird comparatively. Like, you watch...
Is a Demon Hunter, whatever it's called, Demon Slayer, is that 3D animation?
half the time.
Yeah.
It's a hybrid mix. It's one of the best examples of 3D being mixed with 2D. Because that has Shonen Jump animation budgets thrown at it.
Which still, I don't think compares to the DC stuff I've seen.
The good DC stuff.
Yeah.
So...
Well, the plots have been getting worse and worse in DC, but the animation is still top quality.
The latest ones are terrible. But I'm very happy about the latest one. It was not the greatest animations, it wasn't very good writing, but it has an amazing ending. Which it was the Anti-Matter saga, where so Matter and Anti-Matter are fighting, and they realize they can't win against Anti-Matter. He's going to destroy the universe. And so they collapse all the multiverses into one universe. And its ending, one of the things its ending does, is it's the scene where it's like their art style, all of them are going towards this big gate, and it's basically them going into the new Earth 1, and there's not going to be any other Earths. And then it cuts to a scene, because there's being this giant wall of antimatter destroying everything. Cuts to a scene, and it's the last line of the Batman voice actor.
Oh, Kevin Conway?
Yes, it's actual last line, which is, it's the animation style of the animated series. And he and Joker are standing on a building top, fighting each other. And this wall of antimatter is slowly destroying the world. And Joker's, is this really what you want to do at the end of the world? Is fight me? I'm touched. And Batman says, if I'm going to do anything, it's going to be going out as Batman. And then he punches Joker into the wall of antimatter. And it just, like, it shows all their little side series are all getting collapsed into the one universe.
So they gave up on the multiverse?
Yeah. Well, the comics gave up on the multiverse ages ago. And then this is basically them collapsing.
So the Tomorrowverse is over too. So New 52 was meant to be the big reboot. And then they're like, no, let's reboot to the Tomorrowverse with the Flashpoint paradox.
Yeah.
And now they're rebooting the Tomorrowverse, it sounds like.
Yeah, so the Flashpoint paradox caused the antimatter.
Oh, so he's like the end of the Tomorrowverse, maybe.
Yeah, so basically, the actual explanation of the antimatter is it's the universe responding to multiverses getting created, because multiverses are bullshit. And the universe can't handle it, so it eats them all.
You know, you're talking about the twist, right?
Yeah.
So in the Long Halloween, in the Tomorrowverse, Harvey Dent is targeted by the Mafia. They blow up his house. His house explodes in this huge fireball. He grabs his wife and he dives to the side. And then you see him in the hospital, his bandages all over one half of his face. And then he gets out of the hospital and he's standing on the street and half his face is in darkness and he's talking to Commissioner Gordon. And Commissioner Gordon's like, it doesn't have to be this way. And, you know, you don't have to turn to darkness just because there's all these nasty people out there. And Dent turns his face to him and he's like, yeah, you're right. And it's totally fine. It's like, hey, they know what they were doing.
Yeah.
He didn't get injured. He was from the explosion. He's just like, yeah, maybe you're right. And you're like, oh, hey, Harvey Dent is okay in the Tomorrowverse. Of course, it's like a 6-hour movie, but you know, well, 3 hours I think. But you know, he was good for at least that portion. They like doing their little switch it up.
Yeah,
it's nice to keep it fresh.
So one of the things I was going to say about animation, the Western animation, is big battles in drawings.
Yeah,
and it's like you watch any Disney movie with a big battle, and there's like maybe 50 guys in it, and that's all there needs to be. And they can like imply there's more than 50 guys. Like when the Mongols attacked the Huns attacked Mulan. Like there's quite a few soldiers there.
Yeah,
and then you watch anime, like the fights would be so small, or like the scales weren't what they should be. And then there's like there's one big battle at the end. It's because they have to devote all the resources to one big battle at the end. That's why everything else before that is garbage.
There's a great scene in The Long Halloween where Batman and Catwoman fight the Triad, and the Triad have like these super martial artists, and so it's like an even fight, and it's actually a pretty cool fight scene because they're actually holding their own against Batman and Catwoman, and it's like well animated, and not just well animated, but they actually, that's the other thing Family Guy does well. They're interesting fights. Like the choreography is good. Yes. It's like they got, maybe they do get Jackie Chan to help, but like they actually got someone that knew what they were doing to choreograph the fight. It's not just that was the like you know American action movies where it's just shaky cam and some punches. Yeah. Like well, it's not.
That was the Batman and the Ninja Turtle fights were also well choreographed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they utilized the characters like physiques and bodies, and I don't know if you watched it or not, but the fight of Batman versus the Shredder. No. So the first time they fight, Batman's winning. Yeah. And then the Shredder uses like this death fist technique, which is like weird mystic martial arts, and punches Batman in the chest and almost kills him. And so then their next fight, Batman's wise to these things. I know you have seen the scene of Batman versus the Red Hood when they're in the close quarters in the bathroom fight.
Maybe. I mean, if I have, I don't remember right at the moment, but
It shows Batman's actual superiority in a fight when he knows everything that the opponent can do, and they're not fighting like someone with superpowers. And so he's breaking off Shredder's claws and like this.
Oh, I think I've actually seen that. Yeah,
Yeah, he's like dismantle Shredder, and also like the choreography. He is just so perfect in how he's fighting.
Have you seen? This isn't animation, but it's Jackie Chan versus the world's super lightweight kickboxer, I think, champion. And they're fighting in this tiny little room, and they're doing all sorts of stuff like, they go from room to room, but like the kickboxer kicks Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan dodges, and there's this candelabra on the table behind him, and he puts out all the candles with like his foot going by.
So I remember watching a video on Jackie Chan explaining how to do choreography.
Yeah.
And he said, how you do choreography, like how you do a scene, is you build the set, or you have the location you want to fight in. You make the whole scene. You don't put things in that you're going to use in the fight. You make the scene, then you use the things in the scene for the fight. You do it the other way around. Like someone's like, oh, I want a sword in this scene so you can use the sword. So, no, you build the set, then you look at it and go, these guys' goal are to beat up Jackie. Jackie's goal is to not be beat up.
This one's great. So like the kickboxer's actually beating Jackie Chan. Yeah. They're both using the environment. Like they're both super good, but the kickboxer's actually winning. And you can hear Jackie Chan's thoughts as he's fighting. He's like, wow, this guy's really good. He's good. I could beat him, but I'm too freaked out by how good he is. I need to treat this like this is a training session. And he steps away from the guy. They're like both like in a standoff. And he's like, I need to just treat this like it's a training session. I need to calm down. Sees a chair. He grabs it, puts it down, sits down, grabs a bottle of water. Good round. Takes a drink. They're gangsters trying to kill each other, right? The kickboxer's like, what are you doing? He's like, all right, ready for round 2. He stands back up. So he starts acting like they're just having a training session. So he'll like sit down. He'll just take a break.
But if you watch it, like, there's never a wasted movement in Jackie Chan's choreography, because a common thing is like the waving around but not actually hitting anything to make it look like there's stuff going on. They don't do that.
Yeah, and they use the environment in clever ways, and there's a story to the fight. It's not just a fight. There's actually a dialogue and a narrative.
I'm certain you've read books with reading these web books, which also just waste.
Oh yeah,
so much.
Oh yeah,
time.
Definitely. Yeah, there's some that are terrible at it.
Or one of the worst ones for a long-running series. So there's webtoons.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it. They're like webcomics that, like, you've read Tower of God, right?
Yeah. Well, I read part of it. That's one thing that wastes its time, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does. Like, they produce so much so fast compared to, like, the webcomics. I think they actually use 3D models then trace over them.
Maybe. I think, like, anyone can upload to webtoons these days, I think.
Yeah.
So.
But, like, the big series, I think that's partly what they do, or they have teams behind them. But they will come up with a new character at, like, the 7th hour.
Yeah.
And become obsessed with their new character.
Well, probably
like, this is the coolest character ever.
I don't know. There's it's like the most famous Japanese animated space opera based on this giant series of novels, I think, or maybe like comics, right? Yeah. And it's a bunch of guys in space, all this political intrigue. There's it's kind of like Ender's Game combined with like Battlestar Galactica. So tons of stuff happens, and the characters all look kind of the same.
Yeah.
But in the anime, there's actually a bunch of women soldiers and commanders, and what happened was right at the start, one of the animators was like, "Look, I'm going to be drawing this for however long. I don't want to draw just the same guy over and over again.
I want to become incredibly bored with it."
So that's probably with the new character. He's like, "Oh, I get to try this new outfit, this new appearance. It's just interesting."
You could do that, or you could just finish the goddamn story.
Yeah. But I was thinking about this recently. You know how sane people don't like hearing dreams being retold. They don't like hearing about D&D campaigns of other people, right? And there was one more I came up. Right. So what happened was I was listening to, our radio has a section where they play a local artist. Yeah. And so I was listening to her song and I was thinking, wow, this is terrible. And I realized it was terrible in the same way that hearing about a dream was terrible and hearing about someone's D&D campaign was terrible. And also in the same way that a fight scene with improper choreography is terrible. The reason is there's no thesis statement. The reason is because it doesn't go anywhere. So what she was doing was she was talking about living in the woods, baking cookies, you meet a man from the Netherlands and you settle down together, right? Yeah. It doesn't mean anything. Those mean something to you. That doesn't mean something to anyone else.
And that is why AI art sucks.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. It doesn't mean anything, right? But all you have to do to fix her song, to fix a dream story, to fix a retelling of your D&D encounter, right? You give the thesis statement. So for her song, for example, what you do, this is what all pop songs do, because they're actually, it made me appreciate that they're actually okay-ish, right? Like, they still repeat she wasn't repeating her lyrics. I'd rather have the repetitive lyrics than her nonsense, but I'd rather have neither. Okay. But all she needed to do was say, these are the things I love. Or she would have to say, she would say, you don't get that kind of love anywhere else but a small place. Or you just have to give your thesis statement, right? Like, because you're saying all these things, right? Mm-hmm. Are you telling me a horror story? Like, I live in the woods with a Dutchman. Is that a horror story? You're like, this is the scariest time of my life? Because then you can make that the song. You just say, the thing that still chills me to the bone is making cookies in the wood. Like, so when you're about to tell your D&D story, you'll say, okay, funniest thing you'll ever hear, right? And you'll notice that when people do like the YouTube D&D recountings, they actually lead with that, right? This is the craziest thing. Now, crazy, I think, is kind of weak. But if you say, this is the scariest D&D session we've ever had, or this is the funniest D&D, then you're like, oh, okay, now, or if you say a dream, okay, this dream exemplifies terror, or this dream, I met someone in this dream who inspires me to this day in a dream. Like, this dream character inspires me to this day.
Doing that, then when someone's giving you the garbled garbage of their dream, it lets them look for those elements in what they're saying so they can actually pull them out. Because there's...
Yeah, but it also, when you're telling me what happens in your dream, I don't know what it means. Like, because a dream is feelings, right? So you're like, oh, okay, you're trying to convey the feelings, but you're just conveying the events. The events mean nothing, right?
Yeah.
But if you tell me the feelings, then I go, oh,
yeah, okay,
this is what ties it together. Because I don't, like, are you telling me a horror story? Are you telling me a comedy? Are you telling me a love story? Like, what are you telling me, right? So if I tell you, like, I had this dream where I had the best hug of my life, you're like, oh, okay. It's like, but and that's a hard one to put a spin on, right? Like, I go, okay, love story, right? But there was even then, it's like, what do you do, right? But what you can say, you can try to dive into the elements of what made it the best hug, or what made it the scary. Like, you can try to say, okay, so I had a dream where it was the best hug of my life. So you don't want to start with like that. Instead, you can say, connection. You start with like a high school essay, right? Connection is a hard thing to define, and it's easy to misunderstand. People think being physically close is what gives you connection. People think hugging, cuddling, spending time with your loved ones, that's where the connection comes from. But I had a dream where the world was ending, and I knew it was a dream, and the other person in the dream knew it was a dream, and we knew we would never see each other again. And when we hugged, there was no joy of physical contact. Instead, there was an understanding of respect between each other. We were saying, I will never see you again. I understand this. I wish nothing but the best for you. There is no sorrow here. This is just this is goodbye. Like, I can't even conceptualize that properly with this just off the top of my head. But that idea is what the dream is about, right?
If you want to tell me about your dream, you must write a college grade essay.
Well, high school. Yes. But you should, yeah. Because if you tell, because a dream, like I said, it's all feelings, and I don't feel those feelings when you tell me the story. So it's like, whatever, you had a hug, whoa, world is ending. But if you tell me what I'm supposed to be feeling, what information it conveys, what it's about. So with a fight, what's the fight about? What's going on? Like, if they're just fighting, it's like, okay, whatever.
It's like telling someone about, I'm saying telling someone about a dream poorly. It's like telling someone about the comedy show you saw.
Yeah.
And you don't want to say the jokes exactly the way they were said, because that feels like you're stealing them. And you might not be able to deliver the same way. So they're trying to say how they were funny.
I laughed a bunch, and then I was sitting in the chair.
Well, it's not even that. It's like, he had this joke, but you don't say all the words in the joke. You try to break the joke down and make it go quicker, because you want to put your own spin on it. But part of the joke is it's so precise in the words it used that you're not going to actually do anything with it.
Yeah, you can't... But, like, imagine if you're telling someone about this great comedian, right?
Yeah.
And you were saying, so I was sitting in the chair, there's a bunch of people sitting around me. They were laughing, the guy on stage was really funny, and, you know, I had, like, a little pamphlet in my lap. It kept falling out of my lap. I had to keep picking up and putting it on my lap again. And my sock bunched up in my shoe, so I pulled that straight. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, yeah, it was a great comedy show. It's like, what? Is that what you were telling me? That's when someone tells you a dream, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what was that? What are you doing? And so with a fight where... So I think this is what happens actually when someone says, I don't know, someone shows you a clip from an anime. Like, you were showing me years ago from Fate Zero or something. Yeah. Like, here's this great fight scene. I was watching it, like, there's nothing happening, right? Yeah. there's nothing happening because I don't know what this fight means, right?
Yeah.
But if you had watched the whole series up to that point, maybe the fate of the world is on hand, and this is the fight between rationalism and materialism, and this is like or maybe this is good versus evil, or like this is big, this means something.
Yeah.
But I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, they're standing there and they're not talking. But with something like the Avatar: The Last Airbender fights, or like a Jackie Chan fight, the meaning is in the fight.
Yes.
And you can actually watch and go, oh yeah, here's the meaning.
Like the final Agni Kai.
Yeah.
One of the best sound designs in any fight. Like, I don't care if you're using magic or like physical blows or whatever. The sound design of the final Agni Kai is so incredible because it mixes the music and a unique event of the Sozin's comic, where you hear the sheer force of their firebending, like that roar.
Or how about this? You take Shadiversity's best AI art, right?
Yeah.
Or you take a random frame from Hero.
Yeah.
And you say which has more story to it.
Yes.
Or even you take an anime fight scene or a single frame from Hero and say which has more story. Like like you can. I was saying how like if you have all the background in Fate, then the fight means something, right? But then in Avatar, you watch the whole fight. The fight alone means something. In Hero, the frame alone means something.
Have you watched Arcane Season 2?
No.
So, there's something I noticed about Arcane Season 2, which is if you pause it at any point, that could be, like, background art.
Yeah.
It is gorgeous looking. The story was kind of rubbish. You just gave me the thought of they should release the final season of Arcane and remove all the voice acting. So have the music, have all the sounds, but just get rid of the elements of them actually telling the story, and I think it might be better than what it turned into.
Yeah, that's...
Because every part of it, like the art team were telling a story. The sound design, the music was telling a story. Like the art team was the biggest part of the story.
Yeah.
The writers is so-so.
Well, that's what I've been finding with watching the Tomorrowverse, the DC Tomorrowverse, is the art is pretty good. Like, it's that weird 3D rotoscope thing, whatever they're doing. But it's pretty good. And the voice actors are doing a great job. The storytelling has these glimpses of greatness, but like there's this moment in The Long Halloween where Batman goes into the sewers and leaves like a leg of turkey and mashed potatoes for Solomon Grundy.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that's this weirdly touching scene, just happens. And then Solomon Grundy in the finale joins the bad guys and fights them, and that's that. And it doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
There's no, like, this would be very cheesy, like kids cartoon. Solomon Grundy decides to turn on them because he's friends with Batman. Like, I think that would have been too on the nose, but there could have been something like
hesitation from Grundy,
or showing remorse, or
Grundy not trying his best.
Yeah, or maybe or maybe it even being that I think the main villain, Two-Face is kind of the main villain of The Long Halloween. So, but maybe like Two-Face watching Batman give the Thanksgiving dinner and be like, that's how you can get Grundy on your side, and then Two-Face doing it to make Grundy his servant, like something, but nothing comes of it, right? It's just this moment that doesn't go anywhere, and that would almost be okay, but it just needed a little bit more somewhere. And there's moments like that all through the Tomorrowverse.
Even a different thing you could do with that scene is you don't have to put anything on Grundy. You could do like Grundy's whole part exactly the same, but what you could do is when Batman's facing off against Grundy, you could show a moment of remorse from Batman that might make it so Grundy hits him a little bit harder, and then Batman restudies his
Batman
resolve.
could be sad. Yeah, because Batman's like, I thought I could redeem this guy.
Yeah.
And like the Superman versus Parasite, they decided to make Parasite a good guy, which was a really interesting choice. Basically, the power, he gets the power from an alien infection that Lobo gives him.
Yeah.
And then it drives him to seek energy in all forms. And so he's just killing people, draining their energy. And then he'll wake up and he'll see corpses all around him. He'll freak out. He'll run away. There's a scene where his daughter is in... his daughter's just hoping for her dad to come home because he's gone missing.
Yeah.
And his pregnant wife's there and she leaves and his daughter's just staring at a picture she drew of her dad and she's sad. And then it shows that he's actually in the room invisible because he stole Martian Manhunter's powers. So he's standing in the room invisible looking at her. And then the power fades and she sees this monster that he's become. And she freaks out and screams and runs away. And instead of killing her or anything, he just looks really sad and phases through the wall and leaves. And like, this is really sad. And then eventually he actually... Well, some people think he sacrifices himself at the end of the movie. and I don't. It's not really a spoiler. Superman wins. Is that a spoiler?
Yes.
Some people think he sacrificed himself, but the thing, how they fight him is he inherits the powers of whoever he steals from, right?
Yeah.
So if he steals from Martian Manhunter, you can use a flamethrower on him.
Yes, that's one of the best. That's a common way to beat him, is give him Martian Manhunter's powers.
Yeah. So, well, that seems risky. Martian Manhunter's got way too many powers.
But his weaknesses are really big.
Like, there is the... Yeah. So they try to get him Superman's powers so they can use kryptonite on him, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't work because they fade.
Yeah.
And so then he goes to the nuclear power plant that powers all of Metropolis, and Lex Luthor has hypercharged the power... Because Lex Luthor and Superman are teaming up to try to fight Parasite. So he grabs the power plant, he absorbs all the power, he stops it from going supernova, and then he disintegrates. And it's like, so one theory is... The only one I've seen online is that he sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
My theory is that he inherited the weakness of a half-life from the uranium he absorbed, right? So he just turned to dust because it's the half-life. So he turned to like iron dust, basically. That's my theory. But he was like a good man at the start of the movie. And you're like, okay, so this is really touching. But the thing that turned him into Parasite was Lobo carelessly using an alien weapon while trying to hunt Superman, right?
Yeah.
And, okay, that's, that feels... Sometimes just awful stuff happens. There's these bounty hunters, they don't care about the life of the people they destroy around them. And so, okay, sure, that kind of works as a premise. It makes you feel bad because it's like, Lobo just destroyed thousands of people's lives. This wife and her child and her unborn child. But then at the end of it, Martian Manhunter and Superman and Lobo are all talking. It's like, we're having... Now I guess we defeated the bad guy, and then Lobo leaves. And it's like, okay, why did Lobo leave? Why didn't Lobo try to kill Superman still? It's not like his contract expired.
Yeah.
They just had to team up to deal with Parasite, but then Lobo could have just killed Superman. That was his job. Why did he not do it? Why did Superman not try to kill Lobo after what he did to Parasite? And why is Martian Manhunter... Like, it's just hollow. It's like, why did they reconcile with Lobo? There was no reason to reconcile with Lobo. Like, and there is great moments again. Like, there's a moment where... I don't know what happened at DC. Like, they went very... hyper-progressive for a while, right?
Yeah.
But this is after they went progressive, I think, that these were made. And they make...
Well, no, it's not. It's... A lot of things are in writing and working throughout, and so there's, like, elements pushing back and forth against each other.
You mean, like, different people in the studio fighting with each other?
Basically, like, people getting phased out, the writing process starting, so the people who are adapting are dealing with the progressive writing. And
Right. But there's this scene where... what's her name? Superman's girlfriend. Lois Lane. So Lois Lane is like this super hot shot. She took down Lex Luthor with her first scoop. So she's like the greatest reporter ever. And she's introduced to the company, and the boss is like, she took down Lex Luthor with the first thing we're happy to put her on as our youngest senior writer ever on her first day on the job. And everyone just looks at her, and then they walk away, and then the boss is like, great, now they'll hate you. And then but there's the scene where she decides she'll be the one to take down Lobo. So Lobo's in prison. So she's like, all right, Lobo, you got to tell me everything. So Lobo just starts telling her about all his sexual escapades around the galaxy. And so you see from the outside, you just see like the containment where Lobo is, and you hear her screaming. It's like, oh, Lobo's like doing something to her. And then it zooms in, and you see her just on the floor like, stop talking, please, just stop talking. And Lobo's like, and then I gave it a little bit of, So there's these kind of... But the... Lobo is... It's hard to have a touching story with Lobo in the first place.
yeah, so...
I feel like he needs to be in a different story.
So, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
I watched, actually, all the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
Besides, like, the later Wolverine ones, where he's, like, fighting the adamantine samurai and
Right.
stuff. So, I started with the first X-Men.
And did you watch Logan then, too?
No. I remember Logan well enough that I didn't even watch it. So, yeah, I went through all of them to Wolverine Origins, where it tells the story of him and Sabretooth, and then it's their showdown against Deadpool.
Yeah.
And I watched Wolverine and Deadpool, and he looked good in that actual full Wolverine costume with the cowl and the little ears.
That was the same X-Men Origins. Was Ryan Reynolds and
Hugh
Jackman in these very serious, terrible roles.
Yeah.
And then the latest one is them again.
Yeah, so there are so many scenes in that movie that are pretty good.
Yeah.
There's some very fun fight scenes. There's a scene...
Like in Origins or in the new one?
The new one.
Yeah.
There is a scene where Deadpool and Wolverine are in a car together, and they're fighting each other. And them fighting each other is pointless.
Yeah.
Because neither of them can die. Neither of them can really hurt each other. They can just cause each other pain. And so the scene goes on and on and on. And then it cuts to when they're done fighting. And Deadpool's in the back of the car wrapped up in seat belts, unable to move. And Wolverine's sitting there smoking a cigar. And, like, there's these really sad and serious scenes. But of course they Deadpool them up.
Yeah.
And so nothing's ever serious. And
I think you can have, like, a funny show with serious moments in it, but yeah,
it's like the movie doesn't exactly know what it wants to do. The final scene, I think it's one of my favorite subversion of expectations you've seen in a movie.
Yeah. Spoilers, I guess.
Yeah, spoilers, massive spoilers. Is so Deadpool's universe is about to be deleted by evil female Xavier.
Yeah.
And there's this power core she's using his power to do that. And they get told by the guy in charge of the facility that even if you guys are indestructible, you can shut it down, but it's going to kill you shutting it down. Because they have to, like, channel the power of the universe through themselves, basically, to shut it down. And even though you're immortal, it will kill you. And so they fight each other to get into this room. And then, eventually, Deadpool gets into the room and makes some fun. It's like, I'm Spock, I'm going to go and do this to die for you, like the scene at the movie. And so he stabs his sword into one of the power cores and he stabs the other. The power of the universe is rushing through his body.
Yeah.
Then you hear this clang and Wolverine kicks down the door. And he walks over and he grabs Deadpool's sword and he stabs it with his other claw. And the power's getting channeled through both of them.
Yeah.
And then the movie like has all its scenes about them surviving this. And it's like, oh, they're both dead. And then they both get upright.
Yeah.
So, you said there's only one of us. It would destroy one of us, but two of us could handle it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
They already did that in Guardians of the Galaxy. And Guardians of the Galaxy actually did a really good job of serious plus funny.
Yeah, no, it did a good job. A lot of the Deadpool and Wolverine is like nostalgia and nice cinematography.
Yeah. I heard people liked it. I haven't seen it, but I heard it.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. But I think Lobo specifically, you can't even have a touching moment in a Lobo. Like,
yeah.
How are you supposed to... Like, this is a man, his child's about to be born, he has a baby already, he's going to go home to his wife after a long time, like, military duty, and then Lobo just accidentally turns him into Parasite, and he starts murdering people on this rampage around town. Yeah. People that he knew and loved, and random innocent, like a pharmacist, and other children, and mothers, and then you have Lobo at the end being like, oh, I just say that about all my bounties to get more money, huh? And flies away. And because Lobo doesn't care about other people, right?
Yeah. I feel like I've read a few panels of a comic that do Lobo right, but when they do Lobo right, it's not the Lobo that you normally see. Because
I think this Lobo was done fine. It's just the rest of the story doesn't work in context.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The rest of the story doesn't work. So Lobo comes from
Sinazar or something.
Well, no. So the writing period that Lobo comes from is Spawn, when Spawn was popular.
Right.
And so Lobo was a character written in that style, in that time, that art, and he's meant to be funny in that style.
Yeah.
And so you think about how, like, that is the son of Batman, like when he painted Robin yellow, and
yeah,
like that sort of like that level of humor and that sort of grim, dark DC.
Well,
and so Lobo worked in that period as being that kind of funny, irreverent character because he has all the looks of those scenes. But then he can actually be dark and serious in this horrible world.
So there's a scene where Superman, Martian Manhunter, and Lobo are standing on the roof.
Yeah.
And I can't speak. Martian Manhunter says, look at us, we're all the last of our kind. And Lobo says, yeah, except I killed all of mine. And then they're like, what? He's like, yeah, I killed my entire planet. I'm like, what? Nah, I'm just kidding. And then he flies away. Like, what? Lobo in most of his canon actually did kill all his other kind. And in this one, they're like, oh, we'll make Lobo nicer. We'll say he didn't kill all his kind. It's like, okay, so he didn't kill all his kind. He's not pursuing his bounty with Martian Manhunter and Superman. What a great guy. What about the whole Parasite moment?
Yeah.
Like, if Parasite hadn't killed anyone, it's a different story. But Parasite killed everyone. Lex Luthor broke out of prison. And Parasite himself died. Like,
yeah.
It's really depressing. Especially since Parasite loses his mind throughout it. It's not like an evil man got power and then he was able to... It's just, he couldn't control himself.
Yeah.
Like, there's a scene where he saves someone's life, like Parasite saves someone's life at the start of the movie. Like he's meant to be this war hero. Like it's just depressing.
Yeah.
So I don't. So yeah, the writing on DC, it's been spotty in the Tomorrowverse, I think I'll say.
Well, the writing in this is weird. I'm pointing to the two.
I thought the New 52 actually I liked.
I liked it besides the Batman part.
I don't remember the Batman part.
He goes into the desert and goes insane and stops being Batman.
Yeah, I guess he was. I don't even remember him in the story that much. He was a very minor character.
Yeah.
Like it's basically Elongated Man.
It's Booster Gold. Is the main character.
No, Elongated Man's the main character.
It's Booster Gold. It's his story.
It's Elongated Man's story. He's like which is also weird.
It's the whole New 52 is the story of why no one knows who he is.
No, it's the story of the hard-bitten detective Elongated Man who has lost his magic jube berries or whatever, and so he's a very weird character to try to. That's something the Long Halloween does as well. They try to make Calendar Man cool. It's like, why? Just don't try. And actually, that's another thing they do. So they have a whole lot of some movies will do this where that you talk to the killer. You're like, how do we stop them, right?
Yeah.
So they go to Calendar Man and they're like, who killed so and so? Is it the same person that killed the other person? Yeah, we already knew that. Like, he doesn't ever tell them anything useful, and they have a lot of scenes where they're talking to him like, we need to figure this out. How do we solve this? And he doesn't ever help them. It's like, why did you have him in the movie? Because people keep dying on the holidays is the thing, right? But
yeah, that's the Long Halloween.
Yeah, but Calendar Man's in prison the whole time. So they're like, what's going on here? And so they go to Calendar Man, like, who are they going to target next? Come on. He's got the easiest motive on Earth. It's going to be the next holiday. Like, that's...
Yeah.
It's not hard to figure out. Calendar Man can't help you with that. It's not like he has psychic powers into... If he did, that would be more interesting. If he was like, oh yeah, anyone that kills on the holidays, I know where they'll be. You have to go to this location. Like, that would be interesting. But Calendar Man just offers nothing.
Yeah.
They don't even have some horrible justification why he can figure it out. It's like, he doesn't actually... In universe, he doesn't give them anything. And it's like, why is he in this movie?
I want to see a DC movie where they try to make Continent Man a serious, hard-bitten supervillain.
Continent Man? Oh, Condiment
Man.
Did, because the Arkham Asylum games did a good job making, like, everyone pretty hardcore, right?
They didn't have Continent Man in there.
Because they did Calendar Man, they did Hush, they did, the Mad Hatter.
Yeah.
I mean, Hush is already kind of hardcore, but...
Mad Hatter is terrifying. Have you ever seen the origin animation of him in the...
No.
So in the animated series with him,
Yeah.
he is a neuroscientist specialist who works for Wayne Industries.
Yeah.
And he's in love with this girl who it's sort of like the office romance where she's in love with the jock jerk, but she's like always nice to him. The jock jerk's kind of like appears to be abusive to her. And so he thinks, oh, she loves me. And so he comes up with this chip, which is if he has it in his headband and he attaches this chip to someone else, he can mind control them.
Yeah.
And so he's like, has this huge breakthrough in the industry, and he's like, oh, this is brilliant. Like, I have this brain interfacing chip, I'm at the top of my game. And so he asks her out on a date because he's like, my life can only get better from here. And he puts on the Mad Hatter costume. Her name is Alice. And so he has like this proper, and she's like, oh, it's so charming. She's going on the date with him. And he's like a little bit weird, and then I can't exactly remember if like the date ends and she's like just going out with a friend or whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't end satisfactory to him. And so he reveals that he has mind controlled her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can make him do whatever you want for him. You don't have to be with this nasty guy anymore. And she's horrified by it. She's absolutely horrified by this like midget psychopath.
Yeah. Well, that's the worst part is he's 3 feet tall. I mean,
Ugh. This
set your standards higher, lady. 6 feet or nothing.
She's horrified by this psychopath.
Yeah.
Who's mind controlled her boyfriend. And she begs him to let him go. It's like, what? No, you hate him. He's mean to her. It's like, no, I love him. And it like slightly recontextualizes that he's not really a jerk. He's just a jock. He's just like a big musclehead.
Yeah.
But he's a good guy. And Mad Hatter's like, he doesn't want to mind control her. He wants her to love him for who he is. But he's like, well, I guess I have to mind control her now.
Yeah.
And it's just messed up.
In, I don't know if it's the same. I think it might be the same. I think all those origin stories are part of the Tomorrowverse, I think. But he has a very minor role in the Long Halloween animation. But the voice actor does such a good job. So it's him and Scarecrow team up.
Yeah.
And they're robbing a bunch of banks. And Batman takes them both down. Well, but what the voice actor does that is so good. And it's actually kind of the creepiest moment of the whole 2-part series. So he takes down Scarecrow, tears off his venom thing or whatever, chucks it out of the way, his fear gas. And then Mad Hatter just sits down without fighting Batman and starts laughing his head off. And this like creepy laugh. He's just like, ah, 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 ah. And he's mad. Like, he's completely mad. You're just like, whoa, that's creepy. Like, he doesn't even try to fight Batman. He just gives up.
One of the darkest versions of Scarecrow is... I
mean, in the Long Halloween, he tears his head off his mother. He's like...
Yeah. So one of the darkest versions of Scarecrow is, you know how he... this start of the story is he poisoned himself with the fear toxin? Is... I don't know what series it's from, but his mask has a respirator on it.
Yeah.
And it's always pouring fear toxin into him. And that's how he sees the world.
Oh.
And when he's in... The comic ends where they've taken the mask off and that he's in Arkham. And he's screaming and begging for them to put the poison back on him. Because the world's too scary.
Yeah.
Because he's like so messed up that the fear toxin world is not scary to him. And the real world is. And his whole motivation for making people afraid is he wants other people to be able to live in the same world as him. And he sees the normal world as weakness, like fear is the only true form that humans live in. And that's usually his main motivator, is fear reveals the truth of who you are.
That was another great moment. So he breaks out of prison at the start of part 2, and he's running through this creepy graveyard with all these trees, and Batman's chasing him, and he's on this massive horse, and he's got a scythe, and Batman and him are fighting, and then he sprays fear toxin in Batman's face, and Batman pulls out a respirator and puts it on his face. And then he grabs a plunger and just stabs Batman with it and infects Batman with the fear toxin. And then he leaves. But throughout, like, the imagery is really creepy. And there's a moment where he grabs a hanging body off a tree, and it's his mother. And he's like, yeah, I didn't have much love of my own mother. And he tears her head off, and he rides away. And you're like, whoa, this is creepy. And then Batman is desperate he needs help. And so he tries to crawl back to town, but he ends up in Murder Alley or whatever it's called, where his parents were killed. Just having flashbacks of them getting killed over and over again. And he's curled up in a corner in like a little ball, and he's like, I need my mom. I need my mom. I need my mom. It's Batman. He's dressed... Some people walk by, like just normal people, and they walk over, and Batman thinks that they're his parents, and he like reaches for them, and then it's like the wife is like... He sees them as his dad, his mom, and himself. It's like a boy and his parents, and the wife is like, should we help him? And the guy's like, no, I'm getting out of here. What's going on? He grabs his family and runs away. And then Catwoman finds him just curled up in this ball and brings him back to Alfred. But it's just this kind of like... Batman just getting his butt kicked by all his villains in like a sort of montage. And it's like, I would like to see more of that. Like, this is the first time Batman has had to deal with these people, right?
Oh, I have seen The Long Halloween.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Batman doesn't actually solve the mystery.
No, he's totally wrong.
Yeah.
Like, he gets everything wrong. Because this is before he was the world's greatest detective. Yeah. He's talking
to Gordon.
He's talking to Gordon, and he's like, I hate detective work. I just want to fight the villains, and you have to get better at it. And so...
And it's when he and Harvey had the alliance. Harvey, and Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, and they think, oh yeah, we're going to solve this. So yeah, if you remember the animation style, then that's like 3D with like rotoscoping or something, right? Yeah. And I don't want to spoil, because it is actually an interesting twist in the plot.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil the details, but I think there's this weird shift between part 1 and part 2, where in part 1 it's like this sort of grounded fighting the mafia, and then in part 2, and Harvey Dent is locking everyone away in Arkham Asylum. But that's only hinted at. It doesn't really show it ever. And then in part 2, they all escape from the asylum, and they're way more dangerous than the gangsters, and the gangsters are dying out, basically.
Yeah.
And I wish they had done a bit more of, like, Batman capturing them in the first place, Harvey Dent arguing to put them into Arkham, and then you see the gangsters and them actually fighting head-to-head a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit weird that Batman has no clue how to fight these people yet. Because it makes sense. First time he's had to deal with supervillains. But also... He has like he has the gas mask gadget, and he has a couple gadgets. He doesn't have enough, but I think
isn't like in part 2 the Joker
stops being a character basically. Like in part 1 he's the main
terrifying.
Yeah, he takes on
it's like one of the best portrayals of Joker ever is part 1 of why he is so terrifying.
But what's also I really like about it, they balance in the first part. Like the first part I think is way better than the second part in a lot of ways. But the first part they really balanced it out well. How Harvey Dent is just a normal guy, but he goes toe to toe with the Joker. Like they're boxing each other.
Harvey is kind of a normal guy. He's Big Harv.
Yeah, like he's
huge.
Yeah, and he's a talented fighter. Yeah. And like there's a scene where an assassin kills someone or fails to kill someone, and they run and jump off the pier, and Harvey jumps after them, and then he starts like beating them up and pounding their face into the ground. Like he's a lawyer who's proactive for this.
Yeah, well, his backstory, like from the beginning, is Harvey is huge. He is absolutely enormous. In the animated series, when he becomes Two-Face,
Yeah.
and he has like the split personality of fighting the gangsters, there's a one scene where there's the two gangsters in the room with him, and I'm like, oh, he's just Harvey Dent, we're going to take care of him. And then his face twists into that horrible expression,
Yeah.
which usually Two-Face has, but it's like his whole face. And he gets up and just picks one of the guys up, and you hear him screaming, and he throws him.
Yeah.
And it's like, this man is a powerhouse.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is interesting, they really make him a much more, like a lot of shows, they make him a good guy or a corrupt guy that then snaps, right? But in The Long Halloween, he kind of stays the same throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
He just decides that you have to get your hands dirty if you want to make real change. That's basically what happens.
And he also cheats. And they establish his cheat with the coin flip trick.
Except that was kind of, it was a bit forced maybe, but like Romano has the coin.
Yeah.
And then Batman has the coin, and then Harvey has the coin. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it goes through all of them. But yeah, Joker in that one, he's like, he goes toe-to-toe with the gangsters on his own.
Yeah.
And he fights, like, there's this bodyguard that's set up to be this really scary guy, and he doesn't actually beat the bodyguard, but he escapes with his life against the bodyguard.
Yeah.
And it kind of, he does a few things which make him seem, like, completely insane.
He is.
But also, like, he has supernatural luck or something. Like, he slides down the banister on the stairs while the bodyguard's shooting with a machine gun at him. And, like, he doesn't get hit at all. And then he stops in the doorway for a moment just to sort of make a pose and while he's still getting shot at with the machine gun, and then he leaves. Like, why isn't he full of holes?
So one of the things, Joker, a lot of things say that Joker has superpowers or endurance.
Yeah.
What Joker has is he doesn't feel pain. Well, no. He feels pain even. Joker doesn't care.
Yeah.
About anything.
But I think, a realistic depiction, he'd just be, like, dead.
Yeah, but, so the idea behind that, I remember I read some explanation about this, is Joker doesn't care about the risk of things. He does whatever he wants to do, and so nothing matters to him unless he cares about it.
Yeah.
And so Joker is going to take risks that no one else would take. And it's the sort of thing, like, in that one book where there's a plank across the ground, and the guy walks across, and then he walks across it on top of a building, and it's like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
That is Joker's mindset.
Right.
It's the same thing.
So he's taking a lot of risks that, they only have like a 1% chance of failure, but the huge payoff, but nobody would take him because it's so risky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's Joker's supernatural ability.
Because when he fights Harvey, it is interesting how...
That's even Joker's fighting style, is Joker will take a stab to the ribs to slit your throat.
Oh. I just realized... Wait. Joker must have solved the case before anyone.
Probably.
Because he found the killer's gun.
Yep.
And so... But he didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, he's the Joker, baby.
But
that Solid JJ has a great thing where Joker's in the park collecting garbage. And Batman's like, well, is this some sort of nefarious plot? Nope, just collecting garbage. Why? Well, I want to. It's my day off. What do you mean? Yeah, I'm just collecting garbage in the park. You can't do it. That's supposed to be are you planting nope, just collecting trash.
But
I'm the Joker, baby. What are you going to do about it?
That scene where he takes an aircraft, and he's never flown an aircraft before.
Yeah.
And then he goes, and his plan is to kill half of Gotham.
Yeah.
Because he figures it's a 50-50 odds to get rid of Holiday, who's his biggest competition. Like, I don't think I've seen Joker be that, like, brutal before in a way. Like, it's sort of, he doesn't seem to actually want to do it, though. Like, there's a moment where he pulls the crop duster thing, and it doesn't kill the little town. He's like, oh wait, how do you fly this thing? He pulls out the manual from the thing. He's like, okay, oh, you got to turn off the safety, of course. And he does a second pass, and then Batman stops him. It's almost like he wants to be stopped, and he's just waiting for Batman. I don't know, but yeah, no, that was great. The first half of that is great.
Yeah.
But then the second half, they don't spend enough time on Scarecrow and what's the Poison Ivy. That was weird. Poison Ivy just suddenly is in control of everything.
Yeah.
Like they should have built up to that a little bit.
Takes over Bruce Wayne.
And why could Romano hire her? Like the whole point is that Romano hates supervillains.
Yeah.
And suddenly he just goes and hires one and yeah, I thought that was weird. And also that lasted for like 2 months. Like nobody was like, Bruce Wayne, haven't seen him for a while. And also his estate is covered in
plants. Yeah.
Like, what's... Actually, no, I guess he was going into the public.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, his place is getting a bit overgrown, don't you think? Get someone in there. But it's interesting how Batman's villains are much more, what's the word I'm looking for? They're like Halloween villains. They're spooky. They're not...
Well, there's always the joke of if you put Superman into Gotham and Batman into, what's Superman? Metropolis, who would have a harder time?
Yeah.
Because Batman has to fight Lex Luthor and Doomsday.
Yeah.
And Parasite. And all these... And Lobo. Like, all these super powerful things. And then Superman just has to fight men.
Yeah.
Men and women. It's like, oh, it's a slightly more powerful crocodile man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a crazy mind control guy. And in the comics and in animation, they always write it as Superman is terrified of Gotham.
Yeah. Well,
And
I think Scarecrow could do some real bad stuff if he fought Superman.
well, the whole start of Injustice is Joker deciding that Batman's boring.
Yeah, so
and he wants to mess with
So
Superman.
he kills Lois Lane.
Yeah.
But, like, do you think, like, Scarecrow, if he made Superman... Or, what's the other guy's name? What's that guy's name? That hypnotist.
Dr.
Hugo Strange.
Yeah, Hugo Strange.
If Hugo Strange or Scarecrow messed with Superman, like, Superman could become very dangerous to the world.
Yeah.
So you want to keep those guys away from him. Even Poison Ivy, I guess, can mind control him, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Joker Venom can affect Superman.
Yeah, so he's got a lot of problems with those people.
Yeah, it's...
Although you saw, I've never actually watched it, but it's what are they called? The Apocalyptic Four versus Superman or something?
Yeah, the something for Superman.
Yeah, they're like the vampires.
No, there's one's psychic, one's a wizard.
Yeah.
One's just really powerful.
Yeah, but it turns out they have all these powers like mind control, and but it turns out Superman can actually move so fast nothing can touch him if he actually tries.
Yeah,
like when he fights them on the moon.
The world of cardboard speech.
Yeah, but where he's so Scarecrow, if he really wanted to, he could just he's a smear. He's gone.
Yeah, no, well that's the difference. There's a great. You know the thing of being a child is thinking this character's best than being an adult thinking that. It is being a child, Superman is super cool.
Yeah.
Being a teenager, Batman is the best. Being an adult, Superman is the best.
I think
they're both like amazing characters.
Cluemaster is basically the same as Lex Luthor, right? Yeah. Like he's this. Well, I mean, Lex Luthor's probably a bit more fit than Cluemaster, but Cluemaster was this incredibly rich person whose parents died young, and he's insanely smart, and he had everything handed to him, and he decided that he would become evil. Right, and Lex Luthor claims he's pro-humanity, but then it's really about his own ego, right? Yeah. And then Batman actually does care. He has all the advantages, and he uses them to help people. Yeah. But I think, like, if Batman was fighting Lex Luthor on the regular, I wonder if it would shame Lex Luthor into, like, okay, maybe people should be good.
If Batman was in Metropolis, Bruce Wayne would beat Lex Luthor. It wouldn't be Batman.
Yeah, just be a corporate takeover. No, I think Lex Luthor is probably richer.
Oh, Lex Luthor is... They're actually around the same wealth, but I'm not saying it'd be a corporate takeover. It's that Bruce Wayne's actually a good person.
What's the one? It's called Batman and Superman versus the Justice League?
Yeah.
Where Lex Luthor solves the world's economic problems in like a month.
Yes.
Like, they skip over it in the plot. They're just like, elect me and I'll solve all the economic problems. And then he does.
Yeah.
It's like, this guy, he could do a lot of good for humanity.
Yes.
Like, that's pretty impressive. And then the main problem in that isn't even Lex Luthor being evil. It's that he refuses to get help. Like, for the meteorite heading towards Earth.
Yeah.
He refuses to get someone else to look at his calculations and help him, basically.
Yeah.
And then that part where he kisses Amanda Waller. I mean... even she was disgusted by it. And I don't think it's because she was kissed by someone. I think it's because she's like, you would kiss Amanda Waller? What's wrong with you?
The only time Amanda Waller is kissable is when she's dying from cancer.
Oh, did she lose a bunch of weight or something?
So in the Flash goes back in time, and the Flashpoint paradox where... sorry, it's before it caused it, but it's Dr. Zoom and a bunch of the Suicide Squad are trying to get a magic card for Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
So that... because she's dying of cancer. And
right.
so
Also the go to heaven card. Yeah.
yeah, jail free card. So she's lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
And I think Deadshot makes comments about how she's looking a lot more attractive and like takes her being dyed.
Right. But then it was Bronze Tiger that.
God. Yeah, it's I love to see it's like something's off about Dr. Zoom. What do you mean? We're not all dead.
Yeah. He's moving really slow.
It's like, what? He's moving incredibly fast.
He's like dodging bullets and stuff, and they're like, yeah, why aren't we dead already? It's like, we're barely standing our ground. I think they've never made a Richard was he in Brave and the Bold ever, Richard Dragon? He's the best martial artist in the DC universe.
No, Bronze Tiger was.
No, it's Richard Dragon. Bronze Tiger's his student, I think.
Yeah, Bronze Tiger was in Brave and the Bold.
Oh, but not Richard Dragon.
Well, he might have been Richard Dragon as the old monk then. Because he's called the Master.
He's not an old monk.
Okay.
I think he was taught by the Master as well.
Okay. Because it's Bronze Tiger and Batman are fighting each other.
Yeah.
And Bronze Tiger's beating up Batman because he's a better fighter.
Yeah.
And then Batman says, you left the Master's teachings too early and you missed his most important lesson. What's that? Cheat. And then Batman starts using all his gadgets. And that's how he beats Bronze Tiger. Because you can be a good martial artist, but Batman's gadgets will just win.
Yeah, I think there's one case where that might not work. So the best martial artist in DC. So number 1 is Richard Dragon. Number 2 is Shiva. And then 3 is Cassandra Cain.
Yeah.
And then 4, I think, is Nightwing, possibly.
Yeah.
But then Black Canary is also up there for some reason. And then Batman, I think.
Well, you know what's interesting about Batman is Lady Shiva's beat him once, canonically. He's beaten her twice. And Cassandra Cain has never truly beaten Batman.
I mean, how can you beat her, though? She can see the future, basically.
Well, that's why it's always interesting when Lady Shiva or Cassandra Cain fight Batman. So Lady Shiva's just amazing.
Yeah.
And Cassandra Cain can see the future or read people's bodies.
Yeah.
The problem is that Batman, you can read his body, but no matter what you do, you're going to lose.
Didn't Joker beat Cassandra Cain in the...
Yeah, so Joker beats her because you can't read Joker.
Yeah.
But Batman's how he beats Cassandra Cain is no matter what you do, you're going to lose. And that whole comic is her realizing she's relying too much on that ability. If she'd fought him straight out, she would have won. But she's relying too much on her reading people's bodies. And then Lady Shiva, I think Batman drives his car into her.
That'd work. She, I don't think Nightwing has ever beaten her, but
No.
he's like the
He can
only
hold his
person
own.
she's let live, I think, or
Yeah.
something. Because she's like, wow, with a bit of training, you might be fun to fight.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Batman is an insanely good fighter. But if he's losing, he will hit you with his car.
Yeah, I wonder, they should just do like, it'd be dumb, but just like a competition, right? Like Ra's al Ghul versus Lady Shiva. Like, I'm curious. I think,
Well, Raz is...
well, I guess Raz is unkillable.
Yeah.
So that would help. Or what about what's his daughter's name? Natalia or something?
Natasha.
Yeah, like she's pretty.
No, it's Natalia, yeah.
She's a pretty good fighter too, right?
Yeah.
And Damien's good.
The grossest part of DC is when Batman makes out with Ra's al Ghul.
Oh, when he takes over the body of his daughter or whatever?
In Batman Beyond, when he starts making Bruce Wayne young again, he takes over his daughter, and they have a scene where they make out.
Actually, there's a lot of good fighters, isn't there? Like,
Yeah.
what's the guy's name? Battlecat or whatever?
Yeah, Battlecat's... He trained Black Canary.
He's like the old... He doesn't have any superpowers apparently, but he can like punch through steel.
Yes.
like that guy's a pretty good fighter. And then the Question.
Question's very good at karate.
Question's pretty good. And Huntress.
Huntress is good because she'll shoot you.
Yeah, but she's also just fairly good
Yeah.
fighter. But I guess like the Question and Huntress are more like really good for a normal person, but they're not in that upper tier of like...
That scene where Question and Huntress are fighting Wonder Woman.
So they just die instantly?
No, it's in Justice League Ultimate. It's so the four female superheroes who are all martial arts are fighting Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And they're losing.
Oh, that's the one where they all join that fighting ring. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And later on, Question is fighting Wonder Woman. And Question's just tricksy.
But that's actually that line where what's her name? That gambling lady with the snake tattoos.
Yeah.
But she's like, and now for our feature presentation, and the four the birds of prey look up and they're like, okay, they see Wonder Woman about to attack them. Like, what do we do? Try not to die.
Yeah.
Although Black Canary is probably the only one that can hurt her.
Depends on the Black Canary. It depends on the writer, because her scream can just kill people.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful in some of them.
Yeah, it can tear buildings apart.
In what's the one where they go back in time, where it's World War II?
Yeah.
Black Canary is one of the characters in that, and she can like tear apart one of Aquaman's like eldritch horrors.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's pretty powerful in that one. Although they make it didn't work for me. It's like this moment where she's super upset and she because her mentors died, and so she gives it her all, and they animate like the flesh tearing off and then the muscle and then the bones, and it's meant to be like, whoa, she's so powerful, but it's like you just like amped her up a bit. It's like, I don't know.
It's just a girl screaming.
Well,
it's a typical woman moment. She just screams.
No, it's more like, if someone has a sudden burst of strength
from
someone being dead, and it's like, is that something you're like, whoa? It's just like, she screamed a bit louder. I didn't have a baseline for, is she really pushing herself here or not? I don't know.
Anyways, that's that section. See you later.